My brother told me to seduce his arch-nemesis and dump him right after. But that man is the most ruthless crown prince in the kingdom. I told him he was insane, but he countered by dangling a carrot in front of me. If I succeeded, he'd tie his best friend Song-chi to my bed. To get my hands on the handsome Song-chi, I decided to go and meet my brother's nemesis, the crown prince. At the flower viewing banquet, after I fell into the crown prince's arms for the 87th time, the crown prince's icy expression finally changed. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Do you have brain atrophy? I was so angry I felt like smoke was coming out of my nostrils. But I wouldn't give up. I prepared to perform my best dance, the Jinghong dance, to win him over. The zither began to play. I danced with all my might. When I finished, the whole room was silent. I asked coyly, "Your Highness, how was my performance?" The crown prince was silent for a long time before he spoke slowly. "From this day on, I dare not watch the Jinghong dance again." Before the banquet was even over, the crown prince hurried away. Word was he went to the temple to pray for an exorcism charm. When my brother heard this, he clutched his stomach and laughed in my ear all day long. This move was risky, but the odds were high. At least the crown prince remembers you now. After the humiliation of the last time, this time, I spent half a month learning to cook from my best friend. But after I blew up 3 kitchens in a row, she got so angry she grabbed a wok and knocked me out. I refused to believe it was impossible and blew up 5 more kitchens. Finally, I made some sweet and sour osmanthus cakes. After finding out the crown prince's whereabouts, I excitedly ran to the entrance of the Supreme Court to wait for him. Some of my brother's colleagues recognized me and teased, "Heh, Ninging is here to wait for Song-chi again." "I'm not here for him. Song-chi, how did you make Ninging angry?" I looked back, and Song-chi was standing right behind me. I was so mesmerized by him I felt like an idiot. Tears of joy were practically leaking from the corners of my mouth. Just then, a black figure walked by with a cold face. He even seemed to glare at me. I clutched my food box and scrambled to chase after him. Your Highness, I made this myself. Your Highness, please have a taste." The moment the food box opened, a sour, pungent smell hit the air. The crown prince frowned and silently closed the box. "Why must you try to kill me?" Song-chi walked over at some point. "Ninging is cooking for the first time. If your Highness doesn't want it, why not give it to me?" The crown prince seemed a bit unhappy. Song-chi's expression was also strange. I'm not a stingy person, so I took 2 cakes and shoved them into their mouths. As a result, they were both moved to tears. That night, my brother came home very late. He said the crown prince had suddenly fallen ill with vomiting and diarrhea. The imperial physician suspected he had eaten some Western toxic pill. Even Song-chi had accidentally fallen victim to it. I gasped in shock. Is it contagious? After the first 2 attempts failed, my dear friend Princess Suyan drew a conclusion. My brother isn't very broad-minded. Logically speaking, after you've harmed him like this, you shouldn't be alive right now, unless he likes you. The impact of this statement on me was no less than when I found my father's secret stash of money. Father whispered in my ear that he was going to beat me to death. Finally, Princess Suyan suggested, "Go big or go home. Go and confess to him." So I wrote a love letter. "For the sake of the Song-chi will be yours. Promise," my brother dangled before me. I clutched the letter and dove headfirst into the Jiang County Poetry Gala. Unfortunately, I didn't have an invitation. I could only bribe a servant to deliver it to the crown prince for me. As it turned out, the crown prince didn't show up. Instead, Jiang Xian, who was infatuated with the crown prince, arrived. She and a group of nobles blocked my path. "I hear your dancing is legendary. Why don't you dance a piece for us right here? Then I'll let you leave." As soon as she finished, snickers erupted all around. She was treating me like a common entertainer for their amusement. Before I could even react, she pulled my letter out from her sleeve. I rushed to grab the letter from Jiang Xian's hand, but a tall man snatched it away first. He used a mocking tone to read the love letter aloud in front of everyone. My face burned with shame. My reputation was completely ruined. Jiang Xian crumpled the letter into a ball and slammed it hard against my face. The paper ball rolled down the steps. Just as I bent down to pick it up, Jiang Xian shoved me down the stairs. The sharp pain of a dislocated bone brought tears to my eyes. But Jiang Xian's words were even more piercing than the pain. "Let me tell you the truth. His Highness the Crown Prince read the letter and said that you and your letter are both absolutely disgusting." In that moment, I felt a pang of regret. If I had known, I wouldn't have agreed to my brother's plan just for a pretty face. I tried for a long time but couldn't stand up. Jiang Xian and her group were laughing hysterically from above, knowing no one would help me. I gritted my teeth and crawled back on my hands and knees. But before I had crawled even a meter, a tall figure suddenly appeared on the ground. Then, A pair of strong arms scooped me up and pulled me tightly into his embrace. Song-chi was always as cold as ice, but those eyes, usually so calm and indifferent, were now bloodshot. The look in them suggested he wanted to tear Jiang Xian apart. Qin Ning has no sense of propriety, writing such filth to defile His Highness the Crown Prince. I panicked and reached out to cover Song-chi's ears, terrified that these words would stain the noble heart of the minister of the Grand Court. The Crown Prince walked over through the noise, seeing me in Song-chi's arms. His expression turned grim. He spat out a sentence through gritted teeth. "Shameless." I froze, my heart aching for no reason. The next second, Song-chi's voice sounded above my head. "This letter was not written by Ninging." "Oh? It wasn't written by her. Are you implying it was written by you?" "Indeed. My handwriting is not hard to find. If you don't believe it, you are welcome to compare them." The whole place fell into a deathly silence. Even I was stunned. It was true. My calligraphy was painstakingly modeled after Song-chi's copybooks. It was nearly indistinguishable. But had he lost his mind? To protect my reputation, he was willing to bear the stigma of being a sodomite. Sure enough, within 2 minutes, the rumor of Song-chi's secret crush on the Crown Prince spread throughout the entire capital. I was sent home to recover. Princess Suyan told me that the Jiang family had met their retribution. Jiang Xian's downfall was actually due to a memorial Song-chi submitted overnight. Princess Suyan leaned in suggestively. "The Crown Prince must have punished the Jiang family for your sake, too." I shrank back like a quail, feeling guilty. That was hardly for my sake. I was clearly just the one who stuck my neck out. Princess Suyan asked if I was still going to pursue him, but in the end, tempted by my brother's promises, I decided to give it one last try. Pursue him? I've already lost all my dignity anyway. Might as well go for it. Finally, Princess Suyan brought out her ultimate trump card, which was to sleep with the Crown Prince. With that said, she busied herself with setting up the crime scene for me. Half a month later, my feet had just recovered, and Princess Suyan dragged me to the Fengyue Pavilion. Yet, at this moment, I was feeling incredibly bold. He won't kill me, will he? Princess Suyan waved her hand nonchalantly. If my royal brother truly didn't want this, even holding a knife to his throat wouldn't work. Watching Suyan move through the pavilion like a fish in water, I bit the bullet and pushed open the door to room 101. Behind the hazy gauze curtains, a thick, exotic fragrance hit me in the face. I saw the Crown Prince lying on the bed, fully clothed, fast asleep. Because his face was, but the moment he saw me, his dazed, unfocused eyes erupted with endless. I was terrified out of my wits by his appearance. The only thought in my mind was to run. I intended to open the window to let him out, but I had underestimated the Crown Prince's madness. He actually snapped the ropes by sheer force and pinned me to the ground with his hands. His strength was immense, like a beast that had lost all humanity. If he had used just a little more force on me, my limbs would have snapped on the spot. In my desperation, I grabbed his wrist, and it exploded between my lips and teeth. Taking advantage of him loosening his grip in pain, I scrambled out of the room as fast as I could. After that night, I fell into a high fever and was unconscious for 5 days before waking up. My parents cried with joy. My brother also said with relief. The doctor said, "If you hadn't woken up, you would have been simple-minded for the rest of your life." Mother held my hand, her heart aching. "Ninging, do you like the Crown Prince?" My nightmares were filled with the terrifying image of the Crown Prince. After waking up, I wanted nothing more than to stay as far away as possible. "I don't like him. I don't like him at all." Father sighed deeply, his face full of worry. "How long do you intend to keep lying to us? Your deep affection for the Crown Prince is known throughout the entire city." I turned to my older brother for help, wanting to cry but having no tears. My parents didn't know the truth, but my brother did. Little did I know, I had underestimated the power of rumors. The things I had done lately were so earth-shattering that even my brother couldn't tell what was real anymore. After a moment of silence, he still decided to hand me the invitation to the Crown Prince's consort selection, but I shoved it back into my pillow. He doesn't like me. Why should I go and join in the fun? Upon hearing this, my parents both breathed a sigh of relief. In the days that followed, I became a matchmaking fanatic. My brother picked out many portraits of handsome men for me, but in the capital, aside from the Crown Prince, Song-chi was the most stunning of all. My brother teased me for being a toad lusting after swan meat, but Song-chi wasn't a toad. I thought that Song-chi and I were no longer meant to be, but reality gave me a huge surprise. When Song-chi arrived at our door to propose, with betrothal gifts stretching to the end of the street, I was completely stunned. My parents were grinning from ear to ear, and my brother looked as happy as a fool. Only I secretly pulled him into a corner. "How much money do you owe my family? Does Ninging not like me anymore?" I shook my head frantically. Who could possibly not like Song Chi? I like you too, Ninging. I want to take you as my wife and spend our lives together. Is that okay? Yes, yes. You can even take my brother as part of the dowry. The capital was in an uproar after the wedding date was set. Princess Suyan found me early in the morning. You didn't come to the flower banquet yesterday, so it was because Song Chi came to propose. I asked curiously who the crown prince ended up choosing, but Princess Suyan told me he didn't choose anyone. He waited from dawn until dusk, and everyone in the capital is betting on whether I will run away on my wedding day. Princess Suyan smoothed out the red silk on the table, sighing and shaking her head. That was a ruthless move of yours. What is more painful than losing after having gained is almost having it within reach. I'm afraid this marriage of yours won't be easy to pull off. As it turned out, I didn't even have to wait for the wedding day. That madman came tonight. He reeked of alcohol, and with bloodshot eyes, he grabbed my wrist. Why didn't you come to the flower viewing banquet? He gripped me so hard it hurt. You don't like me. So why would I go? The crown prince was agitated, and his grip tightened involuntarily. Nonsense. I like you. Come to the palace with me, won't you? No. After I flatly refused, he was devastated. Is being my secondary consort really worse than being with Song Chi? I was stunned. A secondary consort? What a stingy man he is. I'm about to become someone's wife, at least. If you want to lure me away, you should at least offer the position of primary consort. He saw the disdain in my eyes and pleaded softly. Jiang Xian is the daughter of my mentor. I have no choice but to marry her. As long as you enter the Eastern Palace, you will be the only secondary consort I truly love. In other words, he wants to have his cake and eat it too, and still expects me to be grateful for his favor. I took a deep breath and cut off his delusions. Your Highness, I do not like you. The crown prince was in disbelief. Just as he was about to lose his mind, Princess Suyan knocked him out with an iron pot. Good thing I had the foresight. I'll have someone keep an eye on him. He won't be let out to cause trouble before your wedding day. I wiped away a cold sweat. I was nearly sent to the Eastern Palace to serve Jiang Xian. I don't know what method Princess Suyan used, but for the following days, right up until I was married off, the crown prince never appeared. On the day of the wedding, Princess Suyan brought 2 wedding gifts. One was from her. The other was from the Eastern Palace. Firecrackers were popping, and gongs and drums were sounding. A pair of slender, well-defined hands reached out from the bright red robes. I took his hands in mine. Song Chi squeezed my hands and smiled. We were officially joined as husband and wife. Qin Mu had gained a little sister, and he cherished her dearly. I lived next door to his family, and we attended the same private school, so our friendship was deeper than most. So he brought me along to see the sister he talked about every single day. The baby in the cradle was sweet and well-behaved, smiling at everyone she saw, and was very endearing. Qin Mu held his head high, showing her off. What do you think? I didn't lie to you, did I? My sister is the cutest in the whole world. I nodded slightly and poked the baby's chubby cheek. The baby giggled. She is indeed very cute. Qin Mu egged me on, telling me to go home and make a fuss to my parents, so that I could have a sister too. I shook my head and refused. Uncle Qin and Aunt Qin were famously devoted to each other. They didn't have a single concubine in their household. My father was different. He was a philanderer, and even after years of marriage, he never changed. They wouldn't even speak a word to each other on most days. I used to think they were a hateful couple, but after mother died, father followed her in death. I knelt alone in the morning hall, looking at the 2 memorial tablets, and suddenly understood something. Father did love mother. Many people came to pay their respects, and the Qin family was the first to arrive. Uncle Qin patted my shoulder and let out a heavy sigh. Achie. Come live at your uncle's house. Indeed, my father had many brothers. After my father passed away, many cousins moved into this house. As an orphan, my situation was predictable. Qin Mu brought Ninging to offer incense to my parents. Ninging was still young then. Seeing that I had no family left, she tearfully insisted on taking me home. My heart softened. Compared to the cold, distant cousins in my own home, the Qin house next door felt more like a home. I lived in the Qin household for over half a year. Uncle Qin specifically cleared out a study for me to use. The study was not far from the inner courtyard. Ninging would come to find me every day. She was very well behaved, never crying or making a fuss. She would just lie quietly on the desk watching me practice calligraphy, occasionally smiling at me, praising my handwriting as beautiful. Qin Mu stood to the side, his face darkening. Beautiful, my foot. It looks like chicken scratches. Even though he was criticizing me, he was angrier than anyone else. Your handwriting isn't any better. Father said your writing looks like ghost talismans, and that he'd use your work to to ward off evil spirits on New Year's. Qin Mu was so angry he paced in circles. He had always doted on his sister, couldn't bear to hit her, couldn't bear to scold her, so he could only glare at me in frustration, watching her earnestly copy my handwriting. I had to admit, I was jealous of Qin Mu, jealous that he had such a lovely sister. Even on the day I passed the provincial exam and left, I kept hesitating over whether to steal Ningning away. In the end, my conscience overcame my selfishness. I didn't do it. I bought a house on a street not far from the Qin residence. I chose it for its quiet surroundings, so I could focus on preparing for the imperial exams. But that very quietness made me distracted instead. I would constantly think of the little sister who used to lie on my desk practicing calligraphy. Although I had moved out, my heart remained, and I stayed very close with the Qin family. Ningning grew up slowly and didn't grow distant from me despite the differences between men and women. Often, wherever I went, she would follow. When I placed first in the imperial exams, she was even happier than I was. She dragged Qin Mu, who had placed second, to the Zhuangyuan temple to light 1,000 lanterns for me. Qin Mu was very jealous. Why does it feel like my sister treats you differently than she treats me? I smiled softly. Though I appeared calm on the surface, I was secretly overjoyed in my heart. Later, I was assigned an official post, rising from a minor 7th rank official to the Minister of the Court of Judicial Review. Ningning still liked to follow behind me. As time went on, my colleagues all got to know Ningning. Sometimes, when I was busy and distracted, they would bring Ningning into the office and tease me, saying, at first, I was flustered. I was afraid Ningning would take offense at this and grow distant from me because of it. But she would just laugh it off when she heard it, as if it were nothing of great importance to her, less important than how many hibiscus cakes she would eat that day. I felt both amused and helpless. I wondered when this silly girl would finally catch on, but my worries were soon dispelled. Ningning hadn't come to see me for several days. It had only been 3 days, actually, but it felt like a very long time to me. I couldn't help but ask around. When I learned that Ningning had been learning to dance every day for the crown prince, I was consumed by jealousy. Jealous to the point of madness. Why must it be the crown prince? So, for the few days the crown prince was at the court of judicial review, I targeted him every single day. That day, Ningning finally came, but she had come to deliver osmanthus cakes to the crown prince. She never cooked, yet she had made a plate of osmanthus cakes for him. She pitifully tried to curry favor with the crown prince, but he ignored her. I nearly lost control. Later, Ningning thought we were fighting over the osmanthus cakes, so she stuffed one into each of our hands. When I got food poisoning in the middle of the night and was in agonizing pain, I suddenly remembered something. The crown prince doesn't like sweets. That is common knowledge, but she didn't know that. In the moment before I passed out from the pain, I felt a sense of relief. Perhaps she doesn't like the crown prince that much after all. Not long after I recovered, before I had the chance to ask Qin Mu what exactly was going on, Ningning got into trouble. She was publicly humiliated by Grand Tutor Jiang's daughter. I rushed over the moment I heard the news. I had always considered myself someone who could control their emotions perfectly, but that was the one day I lost my temper completely. That night, when I got home, I wrote a memorial impeaching Grand Tutor Jiang. I denounced him in court for failing to discipline his daughter and for insulting the royal family. Qin Mu knew exactly why I was doing this, and he stood up with several other officials, listing all of Grand Tutor Jiang's oversteps over the years. The crown prince and Grand Tutor Jiang were in the same boat. Under immense pressure, the crown prince had no choice but to sacrifice his pawn, requesting that the emperor demote Grand Tutor Jiang. The matter didn't end there. Although I stepped forward to claim that I wrote the love poem, on the surface no one dared to gossip, but behind my back everyone knew the truth. I spread out that crumpled piece of paper on my desk. Every stroke of the writing looked so familiar. It was I who had taught her to write. I recited the words on the paper to myself. It was indeed a sappy poem, so sappy that my heart ached, making it hard to breathe. She likes the crown prince so much. Perhaps I should stop indulging in wishful thinking. Some time passed after that. I couldn't bring myself to give up. Ningning fell ill. I visited her many times during her illness. Every time I went, she was frowning, lying quietly in bed. Her face was so pale it felt like she might vanish at any moment. My heart ached with pain. I was terrified that every look would be my last. Qin Mu was full of self-reproach. By Ningning's bedside, he told me the truth about her strange behavior during this time. I didn't know how to react when I heard it. So, she had done all those foolish things because of me. Thinking of what the doctor said, Qin Mu unreasonably put the burden on me. If Ningning ends up with brain damage from the fever, you have to take responsibility for her. Who told you to be such a heartbreaker? But I would give anything to be responsible for Ningning. Thankfully, Ningning finally woke up. But Qin Mu started acting up again. He found many portraits for her to look at for a potential match. My heart finally sank. If she is not brain damaged, Does that mean I don't have to take responsibility? Qin Mu spat out his tea. He looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I gave a soft nod and handed him the gift list I had prepared long ago. Qin Mu scanned it quickly and cursed me for being so ambitious. How long have you been preparing all this? Have you been eyeing Ninging since the day you first stepped into our house? Is there anything missing from the betrothal gifts? You've practically brought your entire fortune here. What could possibly be missing? Go change your clothes. Come home with me to propose. The proposal went very smoothly. Qin's father and mother were very pleased with me. Only Ninging was a bit surprised. She blushed deeply, as if she couldn't believe I liked her. Fortunately, we have a long future ahead. We will spend the rest of our lives proving how much we love each other.